All right, everybody, today's video, given a function, I'm going to find the inverse of the function and state its domain and range. Go through the process, go back and explain it after. Busy, gotta go. So first, we take the equation out of function notation by simply replacing the function notation with y. Okay, easy peasy. Then we remember an inverse is literally found by replacing each x with y and vice versa, swapping the x's and the y's. So instead of y equals, I'm going to have x equals. I'm going to replace both y's, both inputs with, both x's with y. Oops, a little nervous today. Haven't made a video in a bit. There we go. We need to replace with both x's with y's. Okay, good. Now the last step, we want to get it solved for y. This is already the inverse, but to solve it for y, we're going to do some algebra. We're going to multiply both sides by y plus 1. Okay. Gonna distribute out the x. Okay. Then we need to move all the y terms to one side. So we're going to subtract this 2y, subtract this 2y, subtract this x, subtract this x. Then we have on the left-hand side here, x times y minus 2y. Over here, we've got negative 3 minus x. Okay, now we've collected the y terms, we can factor out the y, leaving us with x minus 2 equals negative 3 minus x. Then now all we need to do, since this is y times x minus 2, to divide by x minus 2. Boom. That's it. Because now we have an equation solved for y. Okay. And so the last step we want to do here is just put it in that old inverse notation. So if the original equation was f of x, the new one we want to write as f inverse of x equals this. And just for good measure, we'll put the x in front as negative x minus 3 over x minus 2. Now, the one more thing here, we want to state the domain and range. That's not going to be too hard because we know the domain of this is simply that x plus 1 cannot equal 0. We know that denominators must be non-zero. In other words, the domain is x is not equal to negative 1. Interval notation, we can write it thusly. And the range, the old range here, is going to be where this actually has a horizontal asymptote, it's going to be y equals 2. So the range is going to be everything except 2. Talk about that later in chapter 2, why that is. But very simply, if this is the domain and the range of f, the domain and range of f inverse will be the reverse. The domain of f inverse will be the range of the original. The domain is negative infinity to 2 to infinity. And look at that, it matches. X cannot be 2. And the range of f inverse will be the domain of f. Okay, let's do a quick explanation at the end. So again, the idea with finding an inverse is just swapping x and y. So we start with something that doesn't have a y, but y is just another word to call the output, which is this. So replace that with y, swap the x's and the y's, solve for y. This is already the inverse right here, but for notation's sake, we want to get it in terms of y. So we do that. Some algebra tricks there in between. But remember, this domain range is another way that we see that. It's literally just changing the x and the y. The x values here were the domain of the original. They become the y values of the new. Always remember that. That's what it comes down to, switching the x and the y. Now that can mean different things in different situations. That's why you gotta keep asking questions. Keep asking questions. And as always, go blue.